If he gets here, he gets here. We're good? Okay. Call to order the Vermilion County Council special meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Start with roll call. Mr. Reynolds?
Present.
Mr. Weir? Mr. Somerville?
Here.
Mr. Bush?
Here.
Mrs. James, I'm here. Mr. Dreer?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
All right. The only item on our agenda this evening is an additional appropriation for purchase of the Newport property, the old First Financial Bank building across the street from the courthouse. The additional appropriation is for $105,000. It was advertised in 3 different accounts: the certified shares, the cumulative capital development, and economic development. Any one of those accounts or a combination of the accounts can be used to make a motion to approve for the additional appropriation. So a total of 105 is the actual request, not 315. As they do. We advertise multiple funds.
Right.
Yeah, just in case anybody's watching too, for clarification. So we advertise multiple funds. That way we can pick and choose where to draw the money from if needed. So you have some information about, I believe these are the appraisals. 2 of our commissioners are here for questions regarding the purchase and the usage. Do you guys have anything you want to present or say about the building, or?
Well, the commissioners sometimes ask by resolution a intent to purchase the building across the street here on the south side of the courthouse, and unanimously did so. We negotiated with First Financial. We came to an agreement for a price of $100,000. We had 2 appraisals conducted, one from First Financial that had one, and Mr. Junkers provided the second. The average of those 2 was $103,000. We've had a number of inquiries from different office holders in different departments wanting to actually move to that location and or move, and then others were wanting to reallocate their space inside the courthouse itself. We have not come to any determination as to whether any of that's reasonable, possible, or will be done. It is a bank. It will need to be reformatted or repartitioned on the inside. We believe it's a good value for the county. We do believe that it will provide access for offices that they've not had before, and be able to reallocate space within the courthouse as well. We do have outlying properties of different departments. We could possibly move them back to the county as well, or back to the Newport County seat. But all that's under consideration and still taking input on all that. So there's not any decisions nor any preferences at this point as to how that would be allocated. Open to any questions. I think you have the closing documents in front of you, which gives the actual amount, the $105,000. This to take care of the incidentals over and above the closing costs that we may incur. Anyone, either Tim or I, can answer any other questions that you might have. We do make the recommendation that you approve the allocation of the funds and the procurement of the property.
That also includes the property behind it.
Yeah, it's the drive that goes around, and it actually goes back to the alley, or there's a street in the backside. The property line actually goes all the way back to that line. So you can pretty well say road to road. Sited on 3 sides by road and alley in the back.
How many offices do you think he possibly could move over there?
I've not plotted that out yet. Right now there's 2 offices, 1 large lobby area, a commons, or 2 in a storage facility of rack for files and whatever, 2 bathroom facilities, 2 safes, and 2 gigantic offices, more like conference rooms than they are offices. But I've not plotted that out to actually it depends a little bit on who we decide to move in there too. It doesn't mean that it has to be one department move in or one office move in either. There may be a combination if it makes sense that we move more than one office into that facility as well. Thinking of it being a lobby going down the middle, possibly a conference room in the very back portion of it as you walk through, and then offices to your left, offices to your right, and a conference room in the middle, basically. The division of offices also depends on whether we want to make them individual offices or have a common office space of up to 4 desks or whatever the case may be, without partitions, that is.
You spoke earlier moving some people back that's paying now rent elsewhere.
That is a
Could you,
possibility.
who are those people that you would consider?
The offices, well, I'm not sure we're considering, but the offices that we have remotely from here is the Board of Health, the emergent DOC or the Emergency Management, Purdue Extension, 4-H, and Economic Development. I think those are the 4.
So we still leave soil and water down to library at
I'm
400
sorry,
some?
I'm not saying we'll move any of these, but
Yeah.
soil and water would also be another department.
That would just help offset the cost, I mean, because I think they're paying $1,000 down at Clinton for the Board of Health, is paying like $1,009 or something a month. I think they're paying close to $500 down here a month.
Mhm.
You know, that would sure help offset that
Each of
cost that
these-
we're gonna have.
Correct. Each of these have they're paying rent in some way or another.
Those probably should be the ones we consider first, I would think, you know.
The other consideration is also the Public Defenders Board. With that is a region, that's not been solidified yet. It was supposed to have happened by April 1st. I don't think they'll have that person there by April 1st, but we're ready for them if they do. But the Public Defenders Board also has an allocation of monies that can go toward the payment for space.
Initial
or-
cost.
In addition, yeah, there is an allowance in that, depending on what we do. So,
That's Multiple County, right?
it's Vermillion County would be responsible for a portion of it, but also Park and Fountain County would be
yeah.
also responsible for payment. Now, that wouldn't pay, like if we moved them into the building, that would not pay for the whole building. Well, it would, but it'd be over a 10-year period. It's not that they pay for everything right up front. It's a capitalization of that money that they would be paying for.
So if we just put the public defenders, if we get it in there within 10 years, we would,
Yeah, except the county, we would be paying for that too.
right,
So a third.
yeah, third.
Whether it's a third or not is by allocation of use.
Which part of their
But that's
budget?
bigger than what the public defender's office would be used.
Just so we could have multiple, 2 to 3 in there probably.
All these are possibilities.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
Right. That's what I was
committing to
wondering.
any of these things. And first we have to obtain the property. And then, but there are all those considerations, yes. And then also there are, some offices have monies in their budgets currently that could be used for that as well, as far as renovation of or the isolation of bit partitions and whatever. Departmental budgets may be able to do that as well, or there's an indication of that.
The public defenders also get a portion of their budget reimbursed from the state. So, I mean, that cost, even though it would cost us a proportion of the 3 counties, we don't see the full cost of that either.
So the essence of it is that there are different departments that are paying rents outside the courthouse itself. It doesn't mean that if we move them out of here, that we don't move them back into the courthouse for that matter. There's a whole allocation of space to be done, and also depending on where it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to move the clerk over there, and the judge is upstairs, and the clerk's office is there. The treasurer, the recorder, and the auditor are in the same area, so it does make sense for them to stay on the same floors. There's some issues, not that you can't move them apart, but it just makes the work a little easier, I guess, for people.
Has a bank, excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead. Has a bank alluded to any, what the cost per month to operate that in? I mean, their heat and their all that, or light?
It's all in that.
Is it in this pack? Well, I didn't get that till just walked in, so you had a chance to really look at
I
it.
don't have that in mind, but there are numbers.
Okay, I'll look at those.
I have a question. I'm gonna go to the Clintonian for it. To tell you the question I have. On the front page, plan, bank building and everything, for the 100,000. But you turn to the next page in, right here under Montezuma, and they're purchasing possibly the one for Montezuma at 70,000, so what's the difference in them? There's no difference, they're about the same size.
We had to raise it on that, so-
But just because you have something appraised doesn't mean it's worth, my truck to me is worth $75,000, but most people want to be worth 50 or so, that's the thing. You don't have to pay the appraised value. If they want to get rid of it bad enough, and we're willing to meet them someplace in there, I think that's something we'll look at, but just saying, yeah, we'll take it at $100,000 because that's what they want for it, that's kind of not good business.
But they wanted it for $110,000.
Okay, 10,000 is nothing when you're looking at $100,000.
The appraisals are what we were basing, well, it's not what we based it on, but that's, the price we thought that was fair for the price was $100,000. If the council doesn't want to spend $100,000, that's your prerogative. If you think it can be quick, we'll go back and
I just
do it again. But
think it should have been looked at really close with both banks in the same paper on just a page apart. One's 100,000 and the other one was 70,000. That'll pay for your updates,
I cannot tell you the differences, but there are differences from what I understand.
not much. I banked at the
Then
Montezuma one.
Well, you're more familiar with it than I am. I mean, I can't answer your question. Maybe you can answer the question.
All I know is it's up there, they have 2 office areas and then they have like a meeting area on the side up there plus the whole main lobby.
What was the asking price for Fountain?
It says 70,000 right there.
No, is that what they bought it for?
They haven't bought it, to my understanding. That was the price that first gave Montezuma, if my understanding is right, what the article says.
I don't know why they would value this one at 110 and that one's 70. If
Here,
there's no difference.
Don't look at it, there it is, that's
Well,
just.
that's not a question.
No, I know, I'm just saying, I'm not lying about it, I just want you to, when I saw the difference in prices and no, I know, but when I saw the difference in prices, I have a problem with $30,000 higher on, basically the same kind of a bank building.
If all's equal, I agree with you.
But-
And maybe we should withdraw, or I guess if you don't, the offer is subject to county council funding.
Right.
So if the council does not believe that the value's there and that there's comparable properties, the 2 assessors didn't find it as a comparable property. I don't know why they wouldn't have, or wouldn't have used it. I don't know the difference. There is apparently some difference. But if the council believes that this is not a good value for the county, for its location or for its dollar value, then that's your prerogative to deny the prize.
I personally think it'd probably be a real good asset for the county, but the timing, I mean, I looked at Cume Bridge, for instance, it's just about extinct. I mean, the money's getting down in that account, and we got a lot of bridges right now that are deplorable. We're gonna have to come up with some money to pay for those. Then I think we're gonna incur a lot of expenses we don't know about, and I'm sure you folks don't, at the jail once it's done. I mean, we're gonna have operating expenses, we're probably gonna have more manpower. I don't know what all's gonna go there. I would like to know before I spend all this money. It just scares me to spend the taxpayers' money, that much of it, and maintaining this building and all that, moving them over, and then not be able to afford to take care of everything else we should be taking care of.
Well, as far as the bridges and so forth go, we're on the process of doing that asset management plan. I believe the county will probably be shocked at the liability because the county hasn't done anything with these bridges in a long time. We're having failure after failure, and most of these date back to the 1920s to 30s, the structures are.
Yeah, I think that bridge up at Three Springs is real important, sounds to me like. I mean, that's on one way in, one way out, and we don't know when. We just know that bridge is gonna fail here for long. I mean,
That's the reason why we need to be planning these things, and we're currently doing that. The county has failed to do that for, I don't know how long. It's been, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We don't have that attitude now. If you don't believe this is a good value, if you think the county's, you know the monies of the county better than we do. You know what's coming in and what's going out. That's part of the budgeting process you should go through. You just went through it. If you don't believe the county can afford this because of bridges, I don't know that we can do much of anything else, period, in the county anyway, minus mandates. Like the jail would be mandated, most likely.
like I said, I don't think it's really a bad deal. I mean, I think we definitely need room. I don't know if we could put temporary rooms downstairs. I don't know if that's viable or not, to house some of this, but I just think we need to take some time and step back before we do. I don't think when I came over the hill tonight, there wasn't people standing in line wanting to buy that bank. you know, give us a little time here to sort the money out, see where we're at.
Again, this is your choice, is decide whether you want to. We believe that it's a recommendation of the county commissioners to purchase this. We made a resolution accordingly. You've had probably an opportunity to, we know what the price has been, and you've had an opportunity to look at the budget as to what the county's obligations are, what you might believe they are, going into the future here. You know what our county space requirements are. You know how many we have outside the county now. We know what we have as far as people sharing rooms and the issues with those rooms being adjacent to other people's rooms. I do believe that we need to look at that reallocation. We'll be reallocating. But this is your choice. We've done, the county commissioners have making the recommendation. We believe that we have a solid offer in. If you believe that the offer is too high still, then you can reject it. If you believe that we don't need the space, or the space is not as important as what our future obligations are, or our obligations going forward, whether it's future or present, then it's your obligation to decide not to fund this. It's not our recommendation, but if that's what the county council wishes to do, then so be it.
I guess one deal that really bothered me a little bit, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
was, it would really been nice. I think once before, a few years back, 4 year time probably, and it's been several years back, but we went and looked at the building up where Tim works up there in that hole down there, and they donated that. I think originally when we got there, they ended up donating that to Rose Holman. But it was nice that the commissioners at that time, I think you people probably would have done that if you had time, took us up there since we're buying, let us look at what we got. I think we'd have a better total understanding of what's over there than just look at this paper. We would walk up and see it.
Well, we can call them and go over there and look.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, that, I would like to see.
The
it really.
opportunity is available. In fact, in any future endeavors that we make, please, if you want to go and look at something, just all you need to do is call. We don't have keys to the building.
Correct.
It's not our building, but we can make those arrangements so we do a walkthrough.
There's guys down at jail probably get us in there.
Do we know roughly what, like the IT part of it and the refiguring is gonna cost, like a nutshell, like what kind of construction is gonna have to happen, roughly, like a guesstimate? After if we wanna buy it, we like the idea, we wanna buy it, how much more money we have to put into it, another 100,000 or 50,000?
I believe that it's going to be a level 5 estimate. Level 5 estimate is like 50% plus or minus. What I've come up with so far, it'll probably be another 100,000, about 103,000, 105,000 more will go into the building. Not that all that has to go in there
Right, yeah.
tomorrow, but in the next 3 to 5 years, we will have spent that.
So in that cost you have in there for putting the internet service and all that stuff in there, in the cost you're talking about?
Again, it's a level 5 estimate. We do already have that. It's already in the building, but it would have to be distributed from the panel there to whatever the office locations are. There may be, anyway, that's our.
And
my
depending on
guess.
what goes in there, some of those departments have money to do that, that's already there, is what you said earlier.
We do, again, depending on which department we
Right.
go over there, that would be a consideration. We would likely have to come back to the council for any additional monies to be spent on the building at that point.
If I could, I'd like to add on to what Brittany said. He and I toured the building, a couple weeks ago, and looked it over, and there's a huge lobby that can be reconfigured to better utilize the space, so there's some of that to be done. As far as internet, Joink is in there. They have service in there, and it has to be, redistribute, additional distribution within it, but that service is there. Like Blairton, I felt it was probably a good investment for the price, a good value for the price. And the bank at Montezuma, I wasn't aware of that. Is that tomorrow's paper?
No, it's last week's.
Well, I guess I didn't read it thoroughly enough then. I thought I had. My apologies. I wasn't familiar with that. Of course, the bank in Montezuma, reutilized as a county building, is going to do as much good in Vermilion County, so there's that. And I don't know what differences there are. The appraisal, just got the ceiling to look at, so I haven't done a lot of comparisons on, you know, this building versus that building. And that would be helpful, I think maybe we can take a look at that. As far as reutilization, we have offices here that would like to reutilize it, but we have the upcoming defender's office, public defender's office. So there's gonna be some additional space needed there somewhere. And of course, you know, as you mentioned, the outlying facilities we have that are renting space elsewhere, if we bring those into some county-owned property, help reduce our costs long term. So anyway, we've looked at this seriously. I think the biggest thing you're looking at right now is that other bank. That is new information to me. The Montezuma Bank, that I don't know what the differences are there. Probably worth taking a look at. Maybe we can go back and make another offer. I don't know. We're pretty far into the negotiations already.
Has Parkland and Fountain County already agreed to set up headquarters here for the public defenders?
Vermillion County would be the host county.
Okay.
And the reason being is that we have apparently the largest use of the public defender's offices compared to the other two counties.
And how much money would that be from all three counties?
Well, I believe at one point in time, weren't they talking about having to spend about $1,000 a month in rent,
You'd
possibly?
look at the rental of facilities, and it was right around $1,000 per month for rent.
Per county, you say?
For their
No,
their
that's
office.
Total for the three counties?
It's based on how many cases each county has. I
Right.
mean, ours might be a little more than what Park County will be or Fountain County.
Probably 25,
Yeah.
25, 50.
according
But
to
that's
the-
extra money that's gonna be coming in, right? Eventually for that?
Right,
office?
so like, say they had the $1,000 rent that they would pay for the bank building, then based on the percentages of cases, say theoretically, it was like, if it was even, it would be 33%. So then we'd pay 33% in each county. It's not even, we have the majority of the cases. But when they pay that third, that budget also gets reimbursed, I believe, at like around 40%. So there again, you're not paying the whole amount of rent. I mean, it gets reduced, but the county would receive that for renting that office space to the public defenders.
You pay the biggest part of that mortgage on that, or
It
whatever.
it'd pay a lot of it. I mean, and then you could, depending on how the rent terms are, they'd either pay their own utilities or we'd include it, or, I mean, that's details.
You're already short on space, right? I mean,
Public defenders are probably gonna have to find some space. There's not
Right,
enough
right,
to
and
house three counties
not
without
here.
public defenders in ours.
How many public defenders, how much office space do they think they need? I mean, that's another question we need, because if we could split that up 3 ways.
Do you know the total number of people?
They were looking at one person, I don't know that you can call them receptionist, but a person to receive the people that come in, and then 2 offices that were, one office is for the chief public defender, one office for the defenders to use and to store things, or
Mhm.
files, anyway, file. And then a third is for a conference room where they could conference, so those were the requirements,
So
short
what,
requirements.
do you
of what
think
they
it would
could
be
do.
half or 1/3 of that building not being in it? Does it have a basement?
It does not, it's a slab on grade.
Okay, so it'd be like 1/3 or 1/2 of that? Yeah,
I would say it would be a third to a half,
okay. Then we might be able to get somebody or 2 other,
but they would also have to be compatible with the public defender's
Right.
office, so you wouldn't, there's
yeah.
potential issues there, so. We want to make sure that that was the case. Regardless of who, unless we just reallocate space out of the courthouse there only, there's other considerations of rent that's being paid and so forth for the
Yeah.
facilities that we're already paying for.
And you're gonna be able to get them back out of where they're at, back to here? Like, just
Anybody-
examples, like your health office, your 4-H, all that, you're gonna be able to get them back here?
All those will have to be considered. There may be certain arrangements, I've not gone back and, I've discussed some of this with them over a period of months. But we have to look at lease agreements. There are certain things going on depending on who the department is, as to whether we can bring them back today, whether they want us to, or there is a lease agreement that they have to comply with for another 3 years or 5 years, or some of that going on. There's agreements that have leases, but the people are wanting the space back anyways, that can enter into this as well. So we've not planned that far ahead at this point.
would it be a giant deal if we tabled? Cause I don't think it's a horrible idea, I just want some more details on, like, if we find out we can't get any of them, then we have a building with nobody. I mean, we can move people out of here, but we're not saving any money. If we tabled, shot for a lower number, and then looked at it next meeting with some more information of these officers are more real in coming here, or these people can go here, what could we really do? Not, you know what I'm saying?
Where we stand at this point is that if we would agree on the price today, then the monies would be wired tomorrow. Closing would be on, on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
We would have to negate those. We would go back to the bank and tell them that the offer was not funded.
Mm-hmm.
And we would either put it on hold until we can answer the council's questions, and
Or say the council would like a better deal.
or we would have to counter with a
Yeah.
different offer at that point. The chances that we take is that in between this time, I don't know that the price would rise, but the price could change, maybe a lower, may rise, stay the same. Or someone may also make an offer on the bank or on the facility. If they make an offer on the facility that would be favorable or not as favorable as ours, then we take a chance that somebody else will be owning it, like any piece of property or any type of real estate. There are other considerations that we could take at that point, but we've already, well, I'll just go ahead and say it. If somebody wanted to go into it, we could revoke eminent domain on the property, but we would be back paying we'd be paying $103,000 instead of $100,000 if we did that. So we could keep it, but it'd be $3,000, I think $3,000 more. You know, be approximately $3,000 more than what we're offered today.
Well, you said something earlier. Did you say you toured that?
Yeah, Britton and I went through the building rather extensively, so, yeah, we've seen the inside of it and kind of envisioned what it might become. And there's gonna have to be some partitions, hallways, a better utilization of the space. And everybody's not gonna be able to go in there, okay? It's not gonna pull in all the outside offices plus the prosecutors, or excuse me, the defender's office. It's not gonna house everyone. But it can make an inroad into some consolidations there. So, yeah, I've looked at it. I've been inside. There is some very secure storage there. I will point that out.
Yes, true.
Very secure. There's two walk-in vaults. One of them more secure than the other. Both secure.
Britton did mention earlier about the appropriation since it is listed at 105, however, it can be reduced.
It's listed at 110.
The additional is 105 on the reform.
Oh, I thought you were talking, never mind.
Oh, the
Sorry.
appropriation?
Yes, the appropriation. So theoretically, if you thought it was the same building as, the other one, you could say the 70,000 plus the 5,000 in closing costs, or anywhere above that. The limit is the 105.
This is a bigger building than Montezuma.
It could be, I just couldn't figure why they want 70
You
for
know,
one and 30,000 for
it's
this
quite a
price,
bit
40,000 more
bigger,
for the other.
honestly.
Getting this
It's
money
on
out of three
36,
different areas.
Yeah.
So it's a main highway.
Certified shares or cube cap.
Yes, highway.
I would,
Then it's got economic development. Have you spoke with those people? Are they gonna give that money up or what? Economic development, 105,000.
Scott Craig looked at the different accounts, and he just picked ones that had the balances available. The economic development account there is like, if they don't spend their money, it goes into their like cumulative capital account, and that is like it had about 900,000 in it,
I see.
and then certified shares has around 3 million. However, some of that is budgeted out for the year, and then the cum capital development is at around $1 million. So. He just gave us 3 options.
The only healthy one probably would be certified.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the lit money that goes into there.
I think I was elected to support you guys, so that's what I'm doing.
So,
You think we need it?
Can I say something real quick? We all know that this is a seat of the county, and anything we can do to make this area down here better looks better. I think it's very, very important. Decision that you make tonight as far as you pay the price or don't, that's totally up to you all. I do know that there is some risk, like Britton said, if we go back to the bank and someone else, I do know that I have heard that someone else was interested in it. And that's fine. We do take that risk if we do that. But when we come here and people drive here and see this, this is our so-called capital, I mean, it's the county seat. We got a lot to do around here to really make it the area. I mean, it's important that we maintain this area and try to also improve on it. One of the risks that I wonder sometime, I know that you had a valid question about the appraisal. I have not seen that appraisal. I mean, it was not something I was looking at, but the appraisal, we did what we should do to establish value. Everything can be sold less, sometimes sold more. But the building itself, my concern is if someone else would go in there and what they could do with it. You're looking at someone come in here and do something different, and all of a sudden it looks bad, and they don't maintain it, and it goes down the hill. You ain't got no control of that. And I think the image is very, very important to our county. The value of it is I think reasonable. I mean, but that's something you'll have to decide if you want to pay that. But it does have a lot of possibilities. The back part goes all the way to the alley. We can increase our parking area if we need to. And it has a lot of benefits there that I think you need to consider. Like I said, it's totally up to you guys, that decision, if you fund it or not. If you don't, then we'll go back and make a different offer. But like I said, and like Fred said, we do take a risk there that we could lose the property, and that depends on if you guys won't take that risk. And I'm not saying it will or won't happen, but it is a possibility. But I think it would be a good investment for our community. It looks good. It's nothing that looks bad, and it has some great possibilities.
You don't own any of those outside offices, right? Like economic development and.
You know, like the
You rent all
fairgrounds,
them,
the fairgrounds
and
owned
health
by
department,
Tipton Community.
it's all rented.
Yeah.
Well, makes this easy, I think.
Anyway, it's up to you guys. Rick's on his way.
Who? 6:30?
Do what?
At 6:30?
Yes,
He's still late. Yeah. Can he get in? Is it locked?
Yeah, no, Mike's. I unlocked it.
They said when he'd be here.
Rick, I'll take a look at that paper.
Might be Rick.
Down towards the bottom. Right there. Go to your right side. See the print on the right?
Building on.
Right there.
Okay.
This building's on brick, isn't it?
Stone.
Sound like Rick.
Brick and stone?
This one?
No.
Oh, that one's brick.
On the back, there was one in Wazoo's mom.
This brick.
Britton,
Face.
do you expect to have to put a new
Back
roof
brick.
on the
Is
building?
it?
Yep, where you drive through the drive.
A new roof?
Well, I'm thinking
For
of
sure.
seeing white
2 years.
siding on that somewhere.
Within 2 years, we should put a roof on.
Would that be something to
I always went front door, I don't know.
barter with
No,
them,
we held it up until you got here.
since it's going to need that replaced?
Yeah.
We'll do our best at bartering, but.
I didn't know if that would play into a factor at all.
I forgot about it. Yeah.
Think
Totally off the grid?
If I may, looking at this article, I haven't taken a quick look at it. It does mention that the bank's being offered for $70,000 by First Financial. This one they offered, this is a listing they had for $110,000. So evidently the bank, First Financial, feels that there's some difference by offering one at one price and one at another. What that is, I don't know. Also mentions in here some discussion took place regarding structural concerns. And I'm just reading from the paper.
Oh, I know.
I have no
Yeah,
idea what
I
that
read it.
is, but,
I read it.
okay.
Yep. But first made the offer to them, and now they have this and advertised for 110. Advertised for 110. That was my concern.
Yeah.
$40,000 difference in two buildings.
But that is, looks to me, it appears to me that's what first valued the buildings at when they made those
Have you seen
advertised
the
offers.
appraisal on the building from over there?
Did we get it tonight?
No, I'm talking about for over there.
Was it? No, I haven't seen anything.
First, well, I guess we could ask.
But we didn't see this one tonight till tonight.
Yeah, glancing through this, was the appraisal over there, or was that used for comparative purposes? I don't know.
I believe the appraisals have used properties that have sold.
Yeah.
Since that one's not technically sold, that's probably why it's not.
Okay, okay. It'd be
I mean, I could be
nice if-
wrong, but I believe that's the standard.
Typically, price is determined to use for comparison. If it's not sold, then it would probably not be
There's three
included.
different ways that they do that, appraisals. I think this was done on, you'd have to look, I think it was done on market value then.
Which would be the sales price, I believe.
First Financial did the appraisals on all these properties, so I wouldn't think that if that one appraised for more, I'm not saying that they would, if they appraised for more than, or that they would ask less than what they had it appraised for. This one here was appraised at, I think, 108,000. Let me look. No, it was asking 110, but it wasn't appraised for that.
103, wasn't it?
Let me see. No. Oh,
There's one
no,
appraisal
I
on
guess it
110.
did appraise. It appraised at 110,000, and Junker came back with an appraisal of 96,000 for this building. The county's obligation is to have at least 2 appraisals and to not pay more than the average of those. You can pay less, but you can't pay more than that. So the most that we could pay for was 103,000. Why they would, I would assume that they got, and I'm only assuming that they had an appraisal done on that, because I think they appraised all their properties that are up for sale since they decided to close a number of different branches throughout the area.
Did they mention that they'd have to sell it at the appraised price to be launched at the, who said he had to sell it at the appraised price? Do they remember?
Not that I recall. I asked if there was any other considerations that we might be able to enter into as far as being with the county and considerations that the bank might have in helping the community and so forth. And anyway, the answer was is that they are responsible to their stockholders as well. So it's
Which is us. Which is us. And people sitting around here and out there. That's what I mean. I don't mean that against anybody in here.
well, I'm just
You know,
reporting what his
I know,
comment.
but they forget who the stockholders are sometimes. We don't sit behind their desk with their tie on. Please do not put that in the minutes. But it's true.
So do we have any other like banks that have comparisons?
The comparative values are in these reports that you've got, the Junker report and the New and Johnson report are the considerations, I believe.
Yeah, they're not likes. Yeah.
In Junker's comparable sale, the old Fifth Third building on Vine Street in Clinton was a comparable.
Architecturally.
And the sales price was $50,000, which they took $5,000 away because Clinton's a higher traffic area. Then the retail space is higher. But in our case, we're not using it as retail space, so the value of that retail space added to the appraisal doesn't quite seem like it. I mean, the adjusted value went up to $61,750 for that bank building in Clinton. But for our usage, I mean, retail area is not really a value, you know, so. And most of these appraisals do that. The retail area of this bank evidently is a lot higher than some of the others. But when you look at just the sales price of the building, I mean, there's one for 100,000, 50,000, 112.
Like I say, page 24 might be our best analysis of comparable sales, indicated by value square foot.
Like the bank in Rosedale, First Financial sold for 40,000. And that was in August of 21.
I guess there's two questions that, number one, do we think it's a good idea to have that bank? And number two, what's our comfort level with how much we spend? I mean, if some of us think, well, it's just not a good idea, period, then we don't have to worry about the number.
I don't think, my personal opinion, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Right.
But I
what
think the
number
money's
we
way too
come-
high.
Yeah, what's the number then we can say, go back with this number, and if you get it, great, you have our permission, because it's already approved up to 100 and some thousand. Or wait till the next meeting and bring us another number, but in the meantime, is there a number that we can give them to make a counter offer, that they don't have to come back to us? That they have a green light to get it if they can get it for this number?
If you wanted to do that, you could make a motion for the amount that we think we can get it
Yeah,
for,
we have
and
to
that would
come
give
up
them
with-
the ability to go up to that point, and anything additional, they'd have to come back afterwards.
That's what I'm thinking, to move forward with this, and then if that's not the case, we have the next meeting to figure out some of this other stuff that can get us some more information. Unless people just think it's a bad idea. I don't think anybody thinks it's a bad idea to get that. It's a what price are we willing to pay?
If you table it.
If we take, okay.
If you table it. If you don't table it,
Right.
it can't be on the next meeting.
Um,
Since there's some angst among some people here on how much we're paying for it.
I think that's the biggest.
That, I don't think
Part-
anybody here is against it, so how do we get around that and move forward and not sit here?
Is it proper to do a straw vote?
What'd you say? What, we didn't hear you?
Is it proper to do a straw vote? I don't know.
I mean, like, I guess
In
where
other words,
you,
you ask what the opinion of everybody is for 100,000 if you have.
I mean, looking at the appraisal values and what other bank buildings have sold for, knowing that they didn't go back into being a bank, or most of them are even retail space. Some of them, I mean, it appears the selling price is higher than some of the other buildings. But there again, without seeing those buildings and seeing what they come into, like turn into, I don't know. But I think that's where the hang-up is on the selling price. I don't think it's a matter of the usage of space, especially with the public defenders, knowing that they're gonna have to pay for space somewhere. And all the other rents that we pay.
The only other bank, like I've shared with some of you, was the one there by Western Boone High School. Our local mission purchased it. I don't know for sure exactly what the price was, nor should I probably share it if I did, but it wasn't this amount. But it's in a totally different location too.
Mhm.
And I don't think the square footage is exactly the same.
Well,
But it's rural.
being that the one in Montezuma there, I mean, it is on a major highway.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that bank is gonna need a new roof, and if, in the appraisal, they even stated it would. So, I mean, I don't think that was taken, it says the condition is average, but I don't know if that's taken into account on any of these or not. I see some marks for condition, but,
One of the reasons some of those other banks sold a lot lower is because there wasn't a demand for them. They know that we need this, or we want this over here, period. You know, that's the whole key. You know, should we go back counter offer to them? Sure, why not? I mean, what have we got? Right now, we've been looking for a long time. I mean, I realize we have a possibility to lose that bank over there, but Fountain County's not coming because they won't let you, another bank operate there. Am I right saying that, Tim? So, I mean, I think that's what they're hanging their hat on over here, is they know we want it. We need to expand. So they're gonna hang into these other banks, the Rosedale Bank, what's over there? What's that over there, you know? The water company doesn't even want that bank, so, I think that's where we're at. I think we're at counteroffer with them.
The thing about it is, I think I hear that we're all agreed that it's something we could use, and I think that, as everybody's saying, it's a value question. you look at these banks that are up for sale in residential areas, that there's really no need for them. I mean, there's no value there because no one really wants them. And we're talking about, we want it, we need it, we could use it. That adds the value to it. It adds the value to what you get. You take that house, or take that building over right now and try to build it, it probably cost you $150 a square foot. I'm like, is that?
Easy.
Easy.
These days.
You're talking about 3 times the amount, the value of that building. If we would have to come on and all of a sudden something comes along and we have to do something, you're looking at saying, and I think probably most of you would say probably $80,000 you probably pay for it, from just what I'm hearing, you know, or something like that. The difference of that 20,000, is it worth it to put this back out? Because this will go back out on the open market rate. Possibility. So.
I would assume it would, I don't know though.
We don't know.
It's there,
We don't know.
because outside there's an accepted offer, right now they can't, or shouldn't do anything until we either don't have the
Counter.
funding or we decline.
Right.
Is it like a house where you can counter though, right? Yeah.
Let me ask a question here on the offer and counter offer. They offered it for sale, we made a counter offer that they accepted. Can we go back and say, well, we wanna make a lower counter offer? Where does that put us in the negotiations?
Right.
Is that proper?
No.
I don't know them.
It's abnormal, I think.
Right.
One other thing.
Well, you blame it on the council.
Well, okay.
I mean, in this case, it's a little bit different than like a private deal because it is subject to the funding. So I don't know if that makes a difference in it. I mean,
gotta be
theoretically, yes,
comfortable.
like once an offer is accepted, but
Let me check with the sales manager kind of deal.
Well-
He said no.
This is not official, but in inquiry on the corner over here, because we were looking at other potential before this bank came available, kind of discounted at a time, but when we were looking at this corner next to the tavern I'm not sure exactly where the tavern starts and the other properties begins here, but that property was being offered at one time here recently for $75,000. That was for the property itself. Now, I thought it was probably more than I would spend for the property, but again, that gives a little comparison of what the value of the courthouse property might be. Whether anybody will pay it or not, I don't know that anybody would pay that amount of money for it.
No. It's probably the main building here in Newport to look at, there's no question about it, this one right over here, but have we even exploited out and looked at maybe Mark Wilson's building or any other buildings besides this one? I mean, or when this one come up, this is one we're gonna stick with, or?
We had considered, I can't say it as earnest consideration, but we did look at 2 buildings that are over here on the east side of the courthouse. Possibility. They are for sale. They are also for rent or lease, if you will. That was when we were looking at the public defender's office, and then a little time before that, we were also looking at those as a possibility of expanding the offices over to that. This ground floor for the one building was $1,000. I think the red brick one over here on the left, and the one to the right was a little bit more. I think it's $1,200.
The building I'm talking about, Britton, is an alternative school. That's the old alternative school. It's got a full basement and whatnot in it. Be a lot of storage down there for sure, but I don't know what the upstairs is like. I mean, I don't even know what Mark would want for it. It's just sitting there dormant and deteriorating really, because he's, after school, left it. I didn't know if we looked into that or not.
I have not.
Excuse me.
It's not here by the
The only thing I
Pardon,
looked
Ken?
at was on the
It's not here by
courthouse.
the courthouse.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus for it.
The
If
considerations
you're gonna
I-
move the offices that are paying, it wouldn't really matter because you got one in Clinton and up here, I mean, if they located right there, if you're just gonna put those there. But if you're trying to eliminate some space in here and put people over there to create space here for others, then yeah, this is the way to go here.
The things that I considered is the lot over here, the building that's on the corner, the northwest corner, that one possibly would come available to the county. And the 2 buildings that are on the east side of this. I did not I guess also, in all fairness, we looked at the Rise also. There is a clinic out there at the Rise. We've been battering back and forth about the potential of being able to use the main administration building out there. Would be at favorable rates as far as renting, but we would still have to lease or rent. So it would be a favorable.
I think we're with the rises to be the thing over here myself, but.
Now, there's considerations with the access, there's other considerations
Yeah.
with that as well, but those are the considerations that we've entertained anyway, some of them a little more seriously than others.
I'll just interject on the Wilson's building.
Yeah.
I was on the school board when North Vermillion and South Vermillion
Uh-huh.
so-called went into that agreement. We paid, I'm sure, considerably more than $100,000.
Oh, I'm sure it was,
But-
yeah.
When it came to the end of the term contract, there was, I'm gonna say, an issue. I thought we owned it, and Mark said no. And that's one reason why we went in town, Montezuma, and went into a different contract that had the building that we had there. So I guess I'm not in favor of it, going there, but.
I've never really dealt with much, I couldn't tell you.
I've been inside of it, both
Yeah.
of them, but they were a lot more than $100,000.
Yeah.
And I think they would be asking more. That's just personal opinion, but it's been sitting empty though.
I appreciate that feedback, because I really didn't know anything about it at all,
Yeah.
really. I mean, other than sitting there.
It's a shame it's sitting there.
It's just been redone. After
Did
the
it?
schools left, I had a flood.
Yeah,
Had all
I'm
the
aware of
mold.
that, yeah.
They redone all the walls and everything in it.
Yeah.
But it's sat empty since.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
That's happened for a second.
So, we still have two questions. I mean, we can move forward as is, and someone make a motion, we can, I don't know the proper wording to give them permission to bring a different number in.
You'd have to table it if you want to keep the appropriation.
Right.
It'd have to be tabled, or we'd have to advertise
Table for a
again.
full month.
Yeah, and then we'd have to advertise again and give 10 days before the next meeting.
There's no way to give them permission for a certain amount of money.
It'd be 2 weeks. Our
Or
next
couldn't
meeting.
just bless them,
Yeah.
that we're gonna back them for a certain amount and go ahead and do what we're doing. I mean, we can't do that. We've done that with other things, you know, we blessed that deal and moved on.
But I'm just saying, if you don't have a certain amount that you want,
Yeah.
I would table it,
Yeah.
so I don't
Okay.
have to re-advertise.
Right.
You can either make a motion for a specific amount, and they can go up to that amount and negotiate, or you can either just make a recommendation of this is where the number we want to be and leave it at and then table it, and then, we would have up to the 105 on the April,
To 11?
yeah, no, the April 11th meeting, our regular meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 105,000.
Up to, or a
Up
hundred?
up to 105. If they can negotiate down, that's great. If not,
Is there a second to the 105,000?
So that include, I assume there's closing costs, and that would be the total?
Mhm.
They couldn't spend
Not
more
to
than that.
exceed?
That'd be the total purchase price, like, with the closing.
The total for closing, including closing, to go to closing anyways, 103,000 and some odd change. It's on your paperwork there.
And then there was the appraisal, is that including the?
That's included in there.
Okay.
That pays for everything except what we've already paid for, which is the radon and for the appraisal.
Okay.
One appraisal and the radon testing.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
So we're going to approve up to, but subject to,
This would basically give them the ability to close on the bank at the current asking price without having to renegotiate.
without having to renegotiate. So it takes any further negotiations out of the picture.
Unless they would choose to do so, but it gives them the ability to go tomorrow and say, yes, we want to buy it.
Or we wanna buy it for this.
So,
Excuse me?
It'd be up to them if they wanna offer.
after they watch this tape and see that we've approved it.
But they may not have a comfort level with that now.
Yeah.
They might.
I mean, First would know that they have 105, so. I want to do roll call. All right. Any other?
What do you think, Ashley? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I see the need for it, but based on the sales prices, I mean, it has me a little worried that, I mean, these appraisals are increased because of the retail space value, and that's not really value for us.
Right.
On page 24, though, you look at the square foot, the dollars per square foot, you know, and you do your 5 different comparisons. You know, the first one's $45.46, and we're looking at $35 to $40. I mean, I think that's really what you're going to have to probably come down to. Is, you know, we're above, but we're still not paying the top dollar either.
Which page is that?
Page 24.
Then you got 4 or 5 comp properties.
Yeah, you got 5, and then the last sentence on page 24 says, considering each comparable sale market value of this appraised property is estimated to be ranged from 35 to 40. So we're kind of midstream here.
But
I mean, first.
that comparable sale is also including that increase in retail space adjustment. So, I mean, that's what, because if you actually look at the bank buildings that have sold, I mean, none of them have sold for $100,000.
Right.
So the thing that's driving the
Well,
property.
a couple have, haven't they? The way I read it. Am I
Maybe the
wrong?
one in Terre Haute, but I don't think Terre Haute's a really
Okay.
quite comparable neighborhood.
True.
So what's driving the property value here is proximity to the courthouse for our own worst enemy.
I mean, that is the added value in it, is that it is close to the courthouse for business purposes versus being farther away. So it's all in the value that we perceive it as. All right. Any other discussion? All right, I have a motion for Mr. Somerville and a second for Mr. Weir to approve the $105,000 additional appropriation. However, we do need to clarify which fund you would like to take the appropriation from. It can be certified shares, cumulative capital development, economic development, or a combination of the 3.
That has to be in the motion.
Yes, it needs to be in the motion. So,
Now, I'm just going to say, this says the Forest Home Street in Roachdale, Indiana, sold for $108,000.
It's interesting.
That was December 2021. That was number 2.
Which is the healthiest.
And number 2
share.
compares to $39.05 as far as dollars per square foot. And we're looking at 35 to 40. And it sold for $108,000. Now, I thought there was another one similar. So I'm thinking we're still in, mid-range the way I look at it.
So our price range per square foot is not out of line, but
No.
just more than what other banks have sold for. So we're comparing it to other banks on the one hand. And,
There's no demand for the other building. Makes a difference.
okay.
Where do we want to?
Kelly, you made the motion. Do you want to recommend a fund?
I don't know on that. Does it matter really?
Yeah. Certified Shares has the largest balance right now, and it also receives monthly payments into it for the lit tax. So the others don't necessarily receive payments as often. The balances don't build back as quick. So.
I think she said earlier, Kelly, it was like $3 million or something like that in that.
Yeah, we
certified share.
budgeted some of that money out for this year's budget, so it's not, it won't be 3 million by the time we take the budgeted amount out. However, it is the one that replenishes the biggest.
It is the healthiest at this point, though.
Mhm. So, my recommendation would be the certified shares, if that's the one you want to pick. based on the balance and the income it receives.
So we need to include that in the motion?
Yes, if you'll restate that.
So I'm making a motion to approve $105,000 from certified shares for the purchase of the Newport Bank building,
Yes,
up to 105?
correct. And Rick,
Yes.
you
I'll
also second that?
it.
Okay. All right. I have a motion for Mr. Somerville and a second for Mr. Weir for $105,000 for the additional appropriation to come from certified shares to purchase the Newport Bank building from First Financial. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Reynolds,
I vote yes.
Mr. Weir,
Yes.
Mr. Somerville,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
No.
Mr. Dreer,
No.
Mr. Brown?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, all right. With 4 yeses, that is the majority of the council. So the appropriation will be approved for $105,000. So, is there any additional comments for anyone, commissioners or anybody? Britton, you have a comment? Yep.
Is that based on any type of contingencies or anything behind the appropriation?
No, basically, you guys have the 105,
No more.
so, but it just can't go over the 105. So,
I think it's gonna pay for itself, one way or another. I don't think it's costing us anything.
all right. Is there any public comment this evening? Nope. Yep, hold on.
Doug has economic development. One thing I would just say, word of caution, when it comes to the public defender's office, I'd just be very cautious of allowing any other departments to be in there with the public defender, because you're probably going to have sex offenders, murderers, etc. And so, for example, I don't think that somebody like 4-H should be there.
Right.
I would also say, I don't know if economic development should be there, just because you don't want to try to bring in a client and then next room over you got somebody in orange. I mean, they are innocent to proven guilty, I get that, but I just want to say a word of caution, just to be careful who you put with that office.
How much space is the prosecutor's office taking up right now here? I mean, how many offices do they have?
I mean, I don't know the square footage, but
Would they fit in that building? The prosecutor?
Good question.
The prosecutor, would they fit in that building, everything they need?
I believe so.
There's been
So-
several asked already.
For prosecutors?
The prosecutor is one who's voicing, let's see here. The interested parties so far is the public defender, through Judge Jill and Nancy Wilson, as opposed to that they would like to. Probation Department, David Robinson, if there's some, actually not that he moves over there, but if somebody does move over there from the courthouse, that they would like to change their space requirements here, primarily because of the walls and the discussions that go on and what can be heard and what cannot be heard. CASA, who does not have an office at this point, is an interest in the, well, whether it's in here or there, is space anywhere. The prosecutor, through Bruce Ackerman, has indicated an interest in the building as well. Plus, they have a budget that could also be used toward the renovation of the building to their liking. And then, there you go. The funding that's available from these different offices, primarily the public defender and the prosecutor, are the two ones that have potential funding available immediately. The others have, that are in the courthouse, that would be just a reallocation space unless we move from somebody from outside in, that's in a rental situation now. So that's where we stand right now with the interest anyway. It is up to the commissioners that they can move people around to different locations or reallocate space. Open to discussion as to, there is no preconceived notion as to who should move where at this point.
Doug, very good point. In thinking about that, when you're talking about court situations, prosecutors, defenders, both, we probably want that in the building where we have a security desk. As an annex, would we have to provide that if those folks would be over there? So, good point. And we want to reallocate and reassign offices, that's something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Any additional comments this evening? All right, with none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay. Good. All right, I have a motion and a second to adjourn.
You had a second?
Yeah.
Oh, too late, okay.
Sorry. I have a motion from Mr. Somerville and a second from Mr. Bush. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting's adjourned.
We start at 6.